This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you by Language Blend, the new best way to learn Spanish. Language Blend focuses on what you actually need to live and get by abroad with daily one-on-one lessons, a dedicated texting partner. It's like living in a Spanish-speaking country without ever leaving home. Go to languageblend.com for more information.
So first you gotta, regardless of what you're gonna do online, whether it's to sell SaaS, whether it's to sell a service, whether it's to sell e-commerce, you're gonna have to become a good copywriter. So if you have a job, the next step is to learn direct response copywriting, right? And that's actually one of the things I do in the Discord. I basically, the majority of the time, I'm teaching people how to become a copywriter, and then how to actually become a good copywriter.
Welcome back to the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. My guest today is the Wi-Fi Money Guy. You can find him on Twitter at Wi-Fi Money Guy. How's it going, man?
Yo, what up, dude? How's everything, man? And thanks for having me here.
Doing well. How about yourself?
Just chilling, man. I'm basically the opposite of you. I'm not in Latin America right now. I am Latin American, but I'm not in Latin America. I'm in the United States. So I kind of
you're in
did the
United
opposite.
States. You're earning the Wi-Fi monies, and I thought one of the reasons it would be great to have you on the podcast was because that's still a question for people, or something that they need to figure out, is how are they going to make money online? And although we don't make that what we talk about too much, that's where we step in is we go, yo, once you figured out how to make money online, now it's time to do the geo arbitrage, go to Latin America, live on the beach, all that good stuff. But I think it's good to have on guests on the podcast that can kind of talk about different ways to make money online, because it's limitless. It's limitless, really. So I guess maybe to kick things off, like maybe you could tell us a little bit of your background and some of the ways that you've made money online.
Sure. Probably people are already kind of cringing when they hear make money online, right? Because it's one of those topics that's been beat up to the ground by, a lot of people. Some are, more honest than others in the way they approach it, right? But I'm going to try to be as honest as possible, right? I started not necessarily with the intentions of building an online business. So let me backtrack. When I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, not because it was a cool thing or it was common back then. I knew that as an immigrant to the United States, and I kind of early on when I was in high school, I found out or discovered on my own. I can't remember when, but I realized that the way to make money, and lots of money, was going to be building something that people would exchange money for or use, right? Uh, and that sort of led me to discover coding back in high school. I wasn't necessarily the best coder, but at least I already was, and I was conscious of the fact that I needed to build something, and that something was gonna somehow magically make money, right? And that was like the problem back then. I would assume I can build something, and then magically money appears. And it would take me years, honestly, to figure out that was not the case, and a lot of mistakes, right? By the time I reached college, I kept building companies. I would build things and they would fail, right? And I would just get back up and do it again. And when I was in college, and mind you, in any of this situation, I'm not thinking of how can I build an online business that allows me to, go to Latin America and live by the beach or whatever, right? It wasn't necessarily like what you see nowadays of people trying to build a lifestyle business, right? I wanted a business, right? I wanted to build a sustainable business that can uh, give me a certain degree of autonomy. And it doesn't have to be mobility when it comes to location. I know the audience might be more concerned with that, but that wasn't the case for me. I didn't care about being location independent. I just didn't want to be told what to do. That was like my biggest thing. I didn't want to be
Mhm.
told what to do. So uh,
So you
that
wanted
was
to
one.
run your own business,
I wanted to run my own business, yeah, and not
build
be
equity in a business, or basically just make money beyond just being an employee and kind of
exactly. I wanted
find
to
a
make
path to wealth.
money completely independent of a boss telling me what to do. And eventually I came to the realization that there's no such thing as not having a boss. What you do, yeah, there's no such thing. What you do is that, if you're in the services business, you might have 10, 20 bosses that now pay you a retainer or pay you on a per project basis, right? Or you sell products, uh, such as like e-commerce products, or you build a software, and then you have maybe hundreds, if not thousands, of little bosses that tell you what to do, and are very demanding of what needs to be offered, right? So the need the key to freedom is not necessarily not having a boss, but it's having so many bosses that you can quit at any given point and still be able to sustain yourself. That's kind of like the the
Yeah,
game, right? To
sure,
be able
sure. So
to
multiple income streams. And
multiple
then
income streams.
my big question for you would be, um, where does the Wi-Fi part come in? Because you could probably, become a millionaire in the States just being in the construction industry, being a
Yep.
plumber, doing something more physical, really. But you decided, obviously, to become the Wi-Fi money guy and take it a digital route. So, what led to that path, and how's that been working out?
Yeah. So at first, when I started my account, I had a different username, and it wasn't meant to be an account that grows or anything like that. I was just sharing what I was doing, sharing like wins, struggles, ideas. Right. I was just sharing what was surrounding me and the experience I was having at the time. And the term Wi-Fi money, to be honest, like before Twitter, I never heard of it. Right. I didn't even know what that meant. I just thought it was really cool because by the fact that my age, and the resources I had, most of the businesses I've been able to start have been uh, remote businesses that can be ran with a Wi-Fi connection only, right, and a
Mhm.
computer. That's been the case in my experience with all the business. I never try to like start a lawnmower business, or I was never that, and I was never that kid that was like buying chips to hustle back in like middle school or elementary school. I was not that type of, and to be honest, those people that were hustlers uh, were far ahead of where I was, because in my head I was like, I want to build big things that a lot of users would buy, would use, and I can make money via subscription or whatever, right? But these guys, they were more they were more ahead of their time. They were like, I see an opportunity and I can meet it very quickly and I can capitalize on that opportunity and make money, right? And that's I guess that would have been an interesting route, but it wasn't for me. I most of the businesses I've started have been businesses that are ran on the internet, right? And it's just the nature of the times, right? That was it for me. Right? I saw an opportunity that to build businesses using the internet, and also like, dude, I'm an immigrant to the United States. I didn't have a lot of money, right? So like I couldn't necessarily start a construction company or even hire employees to start a cleaning business, right? You can make a lot of money with those, right? So the only thing I could do was pirate Photoshop and watch a bunch of YouTube videos and learn to code, and then even make YouTube videos, right? Like that kind of stuff, right? That was easy because I only needed an internet connection, which thankfully I had, right? So that's
Mhm.
kind of like how I landed on the name. It was just a cool thing that I saw on Twitter. I was like, oh, everyone's talking about Wi-Fi money, and I didn't like my username that I had before. And as my account grew, and I saw potential for building not just an audience but releasing products. And I can talk to you about that, like what the purpose of this account is. I'm very clear with people that it is a for-profit organization, right? Uh, Ultimately my account is a means of distribution for business. Like I want to build software as well that I will be releasing over time to the audience, right? So I think you would be dumb not to build an audience in 2023. That's basically it.
Yeah, yeah, so many threads that we could pick up on there. And I guess just a bit of housekeeping because I'm very curious. What was your old Twitter username and how far did you build it up? Like at what follower count did you change it to Wi-Fi Money Guy?
Man, I was kind of like lingering around Twitter, and it used to be called Harambe Money. It was a little gorilla. Yeah, it was like a random. It was a random name that I picked because one of the businesses I started back in the day was a video game that included that little gorilla. So it was just like I picked something really quick. The only reason I joined Twitter was because of the Wall Street Playboy site closed,
Hmm.
and I was like, oh, that's kind of crappy. But then I realized they had a Twitter. I didn't know they had a Twitter this whole time. Like, I've been reading these guys religiously for years. So I joined Twitter, and over time, I realized I started sharing what I was doing back then, and the account grew to probably maybe like 1,000, 2,000 followers, and then I decided to like test a few things, like launching an offer with Alex Berman, which we ran when I had less than 1,000, followers, and we kind of leveraged his audience and mine, which mine was tiny relative to his, and we launched an offer, and it did pretty well. It's still running, even though we're closing it soon because of we are building something bigger, but it was interesting to me that with less than 1,000 followers, I was able to clear a decent amount of money uh, on the platform, and that's when I was like, oh,
As
Twitter,
Harambe.
yeah. I was like, Twitter's a serious, it's a serious platform, and Elon Musk buying it gave it, gave me like a sense that things were going to be different in terms of like, and I'm not saying better, I'm saying different, right? And whenever something is different, there's always opportunity, right? So I consider Twitter a brand new platform ever since Elon Musk acquired it. So at that point, I started ramping up my content, and I said, I don't want to be this. I don't feel comfortable being a little gorilla online, so I'm gonna pick something that is a little bit more relevant. And I already had learned the term Wi-Fi money, and we got sort of a, that's been I've been growing just using that and sharing content every day. Same routine as everyone else, 5 tweets a day at minimum, right?
Hmm. And so, what is your specialty nowadays? Or I guess you
Yep.
started with coding, right, in terms of
Yep.
online skill set. So, I guess maybe bring us through that because I am interested in. I think coding is good skills to learn, and then to
Yep.
give up coding, which can make pretty good money, to do more, ecom type stuff, which I think is what you do. It's kind of an interesting choice. So, do you want to kind of walk us through that?
Yeah. So the idea of here's kind of like how it happened, right? So I I went from tech sales after college, right, to then uh, I realized I wanted to go back into coding, and I was placed by an agency for 3 months to work with a startup, and that was like the last W-2 I ever signed, and that was like back in maybe 2016 or so, and I was there for 3 months, and basically when the contract ended, the CEO of the startup said, "Hey, I want to hire you, but I don't want to hire the agency. So can you get an LLC and become your own company?" And I was like, "Okay, I'll do that." And to my surprise, he paid me double what the agency was paying because that's what he was paying the agency. So I
Mm,
realized, I was like, "Holy crap!" So this, whatever developers are getting paid, like developers are highly paid individuals, but whoever hires them makes way more money. So it's like at that point, my entrepreneurial brains just kicked in again and said, "I see an opportunity here." And I grew my agency to you know not super big, right, but enough that, man, I was making a lot of money, right, and
So you had
at
a
that
coding
point,
agency, you had a couple
yeah,
clients, and just to concretize kind of what you're doing as an agency. So what type of development was it?
it was mostly it could vary. It was anywhere between web development. We did like the whole full thing, like web development, backend development, some mobile development, right? It was a
Right.
I
And
had
did you
different.
do a specific stack?
Not particularly. It was more of a of what the client needed at a given moment, right? And that was like before I knew anything about marketing and sales, right? I was just like really good at hiring people. I was really good at hiring people in Latin America because I spoke Spanish, right? So the margins were amazing in the business. It was it was all I knew at the time, so I was very happy with it. The problem was that I had a few scares where I almost lost one client, and I that would like cause some income issues. And I said I kind of have to get this sales stuff right. Like this, I can't just keep relying on referrals, right? Because we did a good job, so we were recommended, right? So a friend, I hired an agency and to bring me clients, and like after spending like I don't know like $13,000, like I got nothing. So I was like, fuck, like, what am I gonna do now? And a friend of mine who happened to, he became sort of a sales slash marketing person at the time. He basically said, I think I can take where the agency left, but actually fix a few things and bring more clients. And that's exactly what he did. He took over the sales and marketing part, and he did an amazing job. And I said, what the hell are you doing? Like, what is this called? And he's like, well, it's called direct response marketing. And I wanted to learn. First of all, I brought him to my team, and he became a partner. And at that point, I said, I kind of want to learn what you know too. Like, this is kind of cool, and it's useful for me to learn as well. And that started the whole thing, like Jay Abraham, like understanding Jay Abraham's concepts. We used a lot of cold email as our mechanism to get new clients, and kind of from there on, it was just like digging into how to use direct response to close B2B clients. And over time, we kept seeing the success and the numbers that people in the B2C space, like the e-commerce space, were bringing. And I initially what we wanted to do was build software for those guys, but we fell in love with the concept of selling. So we started kind of like at that point, I made a decent amount of money, so I said, hey, let's start moving towards this side, because you don't have to deal with the headaches of clients and whatnot. And I didn't give up that. Like, I didn't give up my client agency and all that kind of stuff. I just kind of like realized that I needed to start opening new doors and leveraging the skill in e-commerce and selling products to kind of just build a different leg of a business, right? And when COVID hit, it really kind of crippled the agency because a lot of clients couldn't sustain their budgets anymore. So, but we had a lot of money to kind of experiment, and we had a lot of failed projects in the e-commerce department, basically. But we gained so much experience that eventually we had a very successful one that we still run till today, and it's still running. And then I started my own. I kind of just drifted on my own as well and started my own store, and that's been running fairly well as well. So currently, I run two stores, and eventually, over time, the agency just shrunk and it became less relevant to the point where, like, I no longer have clients there. But it wasn't like I quit overnight the agency and just went to e-commerce. It was a very gradual process where I failed a lot. We took some clients for copywriting, something we didn't do, just to get better at it, right? We paid for the best programs. We went to the best people, and we tested a bunch. We put a lot of money into testing to just get to where we were right now. And eventually I kind of drifted on my own. And now that I have all the skills, and I can, launch new products, now it's a matter of scaling. And I'm constantly just testing new offers, seeing how I can expand upon my own store that I have and build more offers for that. And that's what I do on a daily basis, basically.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so, if I had to summarize the move from the software agency to the e-commerce stuff, was, I guess, largely you just thought it looked more profitable, and
It
maybe
was,
it was not.
it was that freedom aspect, like that I'm telling you, like you had 3 4 clients paying you to do software and different jobs, right, surrounding the software space. It's kind of like you still kind of have a job, right? A service
Yeah.
business, you're kind of like you're make it's like a very very high paying job, like an extremely high paying job, right? That's how it is. And that comes with the stress of having a job, and honestly, it's like having four jobs at once in a way, right? Even if you have freelancers and you have a bunch of people, maybe I wasn't the best at running the show, right, or whatever. But all I know is that it was it was fairly stressful. It was a lot of work, and it was really stressful. And you know it's not, I'm not saying that e-commerce is not, but because that would be a lie, right? There's work to be done here, but it's different, right? The work is kind of like, how accurate can you be with your marketing up front, and that might yield zero results or yields a lot of results. It's not like it's very binary, right? Where like you might just make a fuck ton of money, or you just missed the mark and you got to get back to the board and rewrite the marketing. So that was kind of like the decision. It was like, we wanted more little bosses rather than four clients or five clients, and then dealing with their shit. It was more like, we want to be able to scale something that uh,
Hmm.
you know every day at 8 a.m. I look at my ads, I see how things are performing, I kill the ones that aren't doing well anymore. I think of new ones that you can run. With AI nowadays, man, you can do so much crazy shit, dude. It's like, I'm not even going to talk about some of that stuff, but like, you can, let's just say, you can, you don't need models no more. I've been creating new ads just straight up from Mid Journey, and then having someone like tweak them and like make them closer to what we're selling. It's pretty cool, man. It's a good time to be in business. I think everyone should, at least
Hmm.
if you have an income source that can feed you and then give you some disposable income, you should 100% try to sell something online in the form of e-commerce, and learn the basics too. Like, don't just go on the hunting for new products and whatever's trending, right? Yeah, you might make a few bucks here and there, but then eventually more people come in. You gotta, if you master the fundamentals of marketing, you can beat someone who is in a who's selling more in a more in a very competitive market, just because you're able to hit those uh, you know pain points a lot better than the other guy. And
Hmm.
that's where I come in, right? Like, that's what I talk about in my account. It's like, yeah, the product is great. I'm a builder. I've built. I understand your love for the product. I love the product too. But the market ultimately determines what they want, and whoever can market better is going to beat you, even if you have the better product.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. And so what type of e-commerce are we talking? Are you doing like drop shipping? Are you is it high ticket, low ticket?
Yeah.
Can you kind of tell us what you play with mostly?
So because I always use a direct response structure, it's always like, you always land at a sales page, right? Usually an advertorial, right? For the most part, or a VSL, and that then goes to the product, and then you have a series of upsells. And most of my traffic comes from Facebook ads. I'm really good at Facebook ads. I don't claim expertise in other form of ads, but when it comes to Facebook ads and influencers, like actually uh, being able to get influencers, those are the two venues that I use, right? So and one brand actually relies 100% on influencers, whereas the other one, which is the one I own by myself, doesn't. That one relies on Facebook ads, but I will introduce influencers soon. I just haven't had the time to get to that yet. But
Okay. And then where do you get
yeah,
your product from? You like
yeah,
are you so I know there's like catalogs in the US and you can like source things to you put online or is it
yeah.
like a custom product or something from overseas or
So one of them is custom product that gets printed. So it's a printable product. Uh, that's the one I have partners with, and then the other one is also print on demand, but that one I can't really talk about that one because it's not very defensible. But it's print on demand, and the other one is not print on
okay.
demand, but it could be, right. It's
So print on demand's cool, right? They're like 3D printing something for you. Right? Is that the idea? So you have to like find some shop that's doing 3D printing at scale, or how does that
no,
work? If
for the most part, like if you're print on demand, if you're doing print on demand, let's say with cookbooks, right? Then you would find a book printer that can, as the order gets made, they'll print it and then ship it to the customer. So it's drop shipping.
Oh,
But
are we talking books?
yeah, like we're talking
Oh,
books. Like you
oh,
can.
okay. I thought you were talking like 3D printing.
Oh
Okay.
no, no. There are. It's mostly like either what gets printed is either a label onto the product, or something that is changed in the product, and then or it's might be like a cookbook or something along those lines, right? That gets then printed, and for the most part, a lot of what we do with influencers is on a pre-sale basis. So they would pre-sell to their audience, and then based on a benchmark, like if we hit, let's say, 500 units sold, then uh, we consider that campaign a success, and those books get fulfilled. And how we
Okay,
fulfill
so
them
they're
depends.
books.
Yeah.
So it's like an influencer is like kind of maybe writing their bio or their life story or like some kind of like whatever value specific to their audience, and then you're turning that into a hardcover book and selling it.
Well, it like you nailed it on the second part there. Something that is valuable to their audience. But in our case, while we specialize because we do direct response, we make sure that it's something that solves a problem that is painful, sort of like weight loss, right? Or like something that solves a problem for the audience, right? And it's a mass
Okay,
market
okay. Like
problem, right?
how to build a tiny house, the ultimate book,
Exactly.
something
And
like.
then that influencer would actually uh, the audience would be like relate, would relate to that, and the pain points would be accurate to that, and then the influencer serves as kind of like the guru for that.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. Okay,
it's
I
a good
got
way
that.
to, yeah, it's a good way to
And
launch because it doesn't require a lot of cost, right, for people to do that. You just have to be good at contacting an influencer and then negotiating the terms and getting started, really.
just be like, we
And you
can
don't even
get
need.
you. You're almost like a publisher. You're like, yo, we can get you your first book deal,
Yeah,
kind of.
along those lines, right? But books is an example. You can do anything you want. You can do plushies, right? You can do maybe I don't know, like stickers if you wanted to go that way, right?
Okay, like branded
There's
merch for celebrities or
branded,
something.
like, yeah, it's like you would look at the merch and find things they're not selling that only you can get to that level. So I've had people that I've disclosed this method to that actually went to influencers and built software with them. Like they would literally launch software like, I'll build you a Chrome extension that does something that your audience needs, and they partner and they make money together. So it's a matter of it really depends on the influencer, like who their audience is, and kind of like the more, the closer the product that you're pitching to them is to like if they can't see themselves being able to do it themselves, then you have a winner, right? It has to be that. It can't be just merch like clothing, because they know how to do that already, a lot of them, right? That's like their
It's
bread
gotta
and
be something
butter.
cool. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like Gene Simmons' Kiss and how he was like, and Kiss was like the most merched out brand ever. And there was like Kiss Monopoly and Kiss shoes and Kiss.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Like every product under the sun, right? Kiss flashlight. I have no idea. So it kind of seems like that where, um, you just kind of put together like a cool little product and like slap
Yeah.
a logo on it that people like, something
It
that
could be
makes sense
anything. It
for
could be
everyone.
it could be candles. It could be books. It could be plushies.
Right,
It
right,
can be supplements.
right.
Uh,
And then it's Martha Stewart. What was the example? Candles. It's like now it's Martha Stewart candles because we talked to Martha Stewart. We got her name on the candles.
yeah.
Boom. Now it's worth triple.
Yeah, and if you can then tie it to a problem that is mass market, like whether it's and there's always three problems, core problems that most people should go after always, because they just have a lot of emotion and they're very primal in humans. The need to be healthy, the need to uh, you know have wealth, to transcend status, right? That's related to wealth, and then relationships, right? The ability to find someone to procreate and have kids, right? If you can target something in those three or a combination of all three. There are certain niches that I'm not even going to mention, but there are niches that exist that transcend all three. And if you can do that, then
Like
successfully,
moving to Latin America.
yeah, like moving to Latin America. Well, moving to Latin America could be, that is actually interesting because you can position that from a dating perspective, relationships, right? Or you can position it from a from a wealth perspective in terms of you get to cut your costs to such a low degree that it allows you to maybe build something that you otherwise couldn't build in the United States, or a west, more, an English speaking country. Basically, it gives you more freedom. And theoretically, you could go the health thing too, because you know
Yeah, vitamin D, get the sun.
well, even more than that, like particular surgeries, like in
Right,
Colombia you can get
right, right,
veneers and
right.
stuff, right? Like you
Yeah,
can.
we talked about that a little bit.
Yeah. so
Yeah.
so it's like you can probably position cheaper health, and like things that you can get. Like there's so many, and that's like how I think about a market. Like I would start, if I were, funny enough, I were to look at your brand, I would look at those three and then determine which one I think is the most relevant at the time, probably related, given the phenomena that is going on now, where a lot of people, particularly because of the manosphere, are looking for to flee the United States and find like women somewhere else. I'll probably go with a dating thing, but that's just me. But there's many ways to go about it, right?
Trust me, we're always tempted to talk more about dating, but then but it's you're playing with fire. So we prefer the
You're
health
always
and the
playing with
wealth.
fire there, yeah. Yeah, like I've been wanting to do a dating offer for a minute, but I just don't. I don't know if I have the will to to go there, or like it's actually and the reason for it is because and I can be public about this one, because I don't even know if I'm gonna do it. Maybe someone does it, but I had a friend, and I have a friend, and he's kind of overweight, on the overweight side. Not the most social person. Like we joke on Twitter about autism, but I actually think he does have autism, and you know, again, like he doesn't meet those the parameters that would make him like the ideal male to just go out there, and he also doesn't have a lot of money because he's terrible at managing his own money. So he kind of has failed at all three aspects of health, socializing, and the monetary aspect status. Yet this guy figured out a way to like get like 2 or 3 days a week, and I asked him, I was like, what the hell are you doing? And he's like, well, I found this gaming bot that people use to game, but instead of using it for gaming, I use it to swipe on all the girls on these apps all day. So the bot is swiping constantly, every day, like all day, the bot is swiping everything. And just by the sheer volume, he's getting a bunch of people that also matched him. And then he just goes to the dating app and filters which ones he doesn't want to talk to, and the ones he does, and that's how he does it. I'm like, that's fascinating, because this guy who's not necessarily meeting all the standards to for being like the top of the chain for dating. He's
Hmm.
getting 2 to 3 days a week just because he's figured out this thing. And I was like, man, that would make such a fucking amazing info product. If I had the time to do it, I just like put it together, and if anyone wants to do it in your audience, go ahead, steal it. But I think it'll work.
Yeah, we're very tempted as well. We'll leave it at that. I guess we'll keep moving on. We know we got a Latino guest because it's always on his mind. But
Of
we'll move
course.
on. Speaking of volume, I wanted to know, what is direct response marketing? Could you define that for people that don't know what direct response marketing is?
Sure. And there used to be a time when everyone knew what direct response marketing was, because every single piece of marketing used to be direct response back in the day. But it kind of goes through periods where everyone knows about it, then it just disappears and then becomes a new thing again. But it's not new. It's been around for, I mean, pretty much any marketing piece prior to the 1900s was probably direct response. And the idea of direct response marketing versus what you might think of as regular marketing or branding marketing, right? Like those commercials you see, is that every single piece of direct response, like anything that is injected with direct response, has one key goal to it. You need to get the person watching, viewing, reading, whatever it is, to take action at the end, right? So at the end of the day, like if an ad doesn't have a call to action at the end, whether it's to get a report, whether it's to buy something because they're giving you an offer that's only available to them in that given moment, is not direct response. So if it's something where you just kind of like advertise, like a lot of car companies, they'll like make an advertising of like they're using the car and that's it, and it just like shows a family using the car and boom, the commercial's gone. If you were to spend money to run that ad, right, and they do spend money, right, if it doesn't have a call to action, then you're kind of hoping that it brings you sales at some point. That's branding, right? At some point, it might bring sales, it might not bring sales. With direct response, we don't have that privilege. Every dollar that goes into a campaign, into a sales page, into any effort, we have to track how much money that made back on day one. We can't
Hmm.
wait for, and nowadays you can, because back in the day it used to be in the mailed. But
Yeah, yeah,
basically,
yeah. So we
yeah,
want an
essentially,
ROI, but so
we want an
just
ROI
to
day one.
double down, So direct response marketing is it about the call to action, or what makes direct response marketing different than other types of marketing, or what is it?
So that is the number one reason the person has to respond to your marketing in some form, right? The moment they see it, whether it's to they're either going to ignore it or they're going to call the number, click the link, and buy the product, right? They need to do something. Like there's always something at the end of the marketing waiting for them to take action, right? That's
Okay.
the number one
And
thing.
is it just buy now, or is it, join the email list?
It depends
Or is
on
there like
how
an
delayed.
intermediary step, I guess?
Yeah, it varies. A lot of times it could be download this app. A lot other times it could be give us your email so that we can send you the free report or ebook, right? And then it could be just straight up, here's how you buy, right? Like buy, click this link or call this number, and we'll send you the thing. Now, direct response marketing, you can probably break it down into three things. So that's like literally what it needs to have. It needs to have a point of action, an immediate way for the person to respond to the marketing, right? And then it's usually split into three things. You have a very well defined audience, you have an offer, right? And then you have basically copywriting that drives the desire, the group of people with the desire to buy or have a problem in the market to your offer. So it's kind of like you have a very big river on one end, and that's the market and their desires, and then you have a little river that is like drying and has barely any water. And direct response marketing, the purpose of it is just to build little canals, and you will find little rocks sometimes in between the canals you built, and that means that you probably need to go back and then make another canal, and eventually you are able to build a canal from the big river to the dry, the dry river, and that connection is your marketing, and you make money. And that's
Mhm.
that's kind of how it works, right? So you have to master a form of traffic that you can, you know, tap into, copywriting so that you can persuade the audience, and then offer building skills that allows you to take a product that might be ordinary, and then but now is positioned as a thing, as the only thing that can solve that problem, and that prompts you to take action, right? And it
Mm.
has to happen in that sequence. And if you can do that successfully, uh, like a lot of the people say online, you in theory have a money making machine. That's what it is, right? That doesn't require extra work to just keep scaling.
Definitely makes sense. So do
Yeah.
you say it's really a lot of what you do is really taking a deep look at sales funnels and trying to increase conversion?
Well, a lot of times right now that's what I'm doing, but oftentimes I am building the sales funnel from scratch and launching a new product or a new offer, right? And that depends on what stage I am. At the moment, I am mostly in the stage of optimizing and fulfillment. Uh, and but if I launch a new offer, then I have to backtrack and then start building the funnel from scratch. Yeah,
Makes sense. And so
yeah,
when people come to you on Twitter and the things you talk about there and what people DM you about, and I think you do some consulting and stuff, like where do people need the most help?
yeah. So ironically, I don't do consulting on Twitter. I actually don't do consulting at all. I haven't monetized my Twitter and basically at all outside of like that little offer I did with Alex Berman.
And
But
there's a Gumroad, I think, right?
not Not with me. I've never used Gumroad actually.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, actually, I haven't really monetized much, but I do answer a lot of DMs, and I helped as many people as I possibly can. Uh, and For the most part, they kind of come with the idea that someone told them, like, drop ship this product, or build this product and then go sell it. And what a lot of times happens is that they can source the product and whatnot, but then it doesn't work in the market because they can't persuade the market. They don't understand how to build a campaign properly, how to use direct response properly, and so usually their ad costs are just too high for what they're offering, and then they can't sustain it. So a lot of times, it's like, hey, my ad is not converting, my offer is not converting, and I'm like, well, it's not really. Can I see your sales page? There's barely any sales on the on the sales page. It's just like a product page, and I'm like, well, of course, there's 100 other people doing exactly what you're doing. There's no way that if I have to, if a market, if you're selling the same thing as everyone else in a market, and your offer's not even better or slightly different, like the angle that you have, then the market is going to default to price, and whoever's going to win is whoever has the lowest price, and that's just a recipe for doom, in a market when everyone's just competing based on price, and eventually your profits shrink, right? So that's the whole idea of, and we can talk about this. It's a whole topic in itself, but that's the whole idea behind offer building, as part of direct response. Is like, how can I make my offer, have a higher perceived value than the price they're paying, while also making the price a lot more pricier than what everyone else is doing. So it's kind of like you're more expensive than most people, which makes you more profitable. Yet the buyer walks in a lot happier because they got a better offer, and that's really, it's a lot, right? But it's one of those things why it's not being told. Like, the whole game is not super easy. Yes, it is. It is lucrative and it's fun, and when you're making money, you wake up sometimes in the morning and you see all those, Shopify or Stripe notifications, and you've made money before you even woke up. Yes, that does happen, right? But it takes understanding. It takes thinking, right? It's not something that you just do it overnight. It takes some time to just develop the skills and practice, and eventually you get there, and then you do whatever all the gurus do, right, online. But it takes time.
Okay, definitely makes sense. Yeah, you know what I was thinking was the reason I was confused. There's another person on Twitter who goes by Wi-Fi Money Plant, and I was looking at it today while I was looking at your stuff as well. So there's Wi-Fi Money Guy and there's Wi-Fi Money Plant, and that I guess that person had a Gumroad or something. But I
Yeah, that's
was,
that's not me.
yeah,
That's not me. Yeah. um but yeah, I think I was one of the first people to use the Wi-Fi money thing. Others have followed and like, oh, hey, can I use Wi-Fi money fitness? I'm like, sure, man, you do your thing. But I think I was the original
the next
Wi-Fi
bow
money
tie,
guy.
the next bow tie.
Yeah, there's a lot of. I was kind of. I realized that a lot of the guys that I just liked a bunch of accounts that had the name guy, like Bowtie Sales Guy, uh, strip mall guy, car dealership guy. So I was like, hey, I
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Let me just, no one's using Wi-Fi money guy. It's a cool term. Let's use that.
Yeah. Maybe we could talk about Twitter for a sec because you've built up a pretty solid audience. You got 15,000 followers. Did you ever tell me at what point you switched it from Wi Harambe money to Wi-Fi money? What?
I switched to it roughly. I didn't start taking this account seriously until November. So that was probably, if anyone backtracks to how many followers I had on November, October, that's really when I pivoted. And I think I don't think I had 2,000 followers back then. I think it was like, and it was just literally, I was just growing over time, like just sharing some days and other days I wouldn't, right? And someone told me like, hey, you have a business already, and I said, cool. That's I don't know what to sell. I don't know if I want to sell info products or anything like that. I might want to sell software. So let's see where that goes. And over the next couple of months, a lot of people have requested like, hey, can I get consulting time? Can I get consulting time? And I'm like, I don't like I don't like consulting. I don't like doing consulting. And at some point, I decided, you know what? I thought, I thought people knew a lot of this stuff, and I'm like, whoa, actually, no, they don't. I consider this the basics, but most people just aren't even there. And I'm like, maybe I launch something, and I'm thinking of launching I am launching a Discord community. Uh, nothing super crazy, but where they'll consume a lot of the content that I built to get them, from the very basics to a point where they can get sales. And spoiler alert, I already have people that have gone through it. Basically, I've helped them to see if the process, like how the process works, and just kind of how people react to it, and they've gotten pretty good results. So I know I have something that can get them their first sales online and beyond. But it's not like I'm gonna always say this is not something where they don't have to do work, right? They have to put in the work. They don't have to be a genius, but they have to be willing to, you know, follow directions and honestly wake up and do the thing, right? You got to wake up and do the thing. If you can do
Yeah, do the
that, then
thing.
yeah.
Okay, cool. And so, what do you think has been some of the biggest factors in your success in sort of going from 1,000 to 15,000 in less than 6 months?
So, ironically, uh, the moment I said, let me use some of the direct response tactics and inject it into my content, that's when I started growing. So I would think every time I created a thread or I did some sort of auto DM lead magnet, I would think from the perspective of I'm not building a giveaway on Twitter. I'm building an ad that is going to run traffic to it, and I need to be as relevant to my audience as possible in that ad. I put it out there, and then the website is going to be a sales page where, in addition to giving you the value I promised, I sell you into joining my email list. And my email list is actually close to 4,000 subscribers, actually. So and it grows by like probably like 400 to 1,000 a month. So that's happening as well. It's just that in the background. And so that's what I've been doing. I've been building my list. So it was just treating it like what it is. It is a direct response campaign, right? And the company is Wi-Fi Money Guy. And when I did that switch, that mindset switch, and I started applying everything I know about it, it just grew. It's the same game.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. Um, so, how important has been building the email list for you? That seems like that's kind of been your number one thing.
Yeah, so I wanted to share. I kind of noticed that no one was doing this approach to learning marketing, which was looking at existing marketing out there, whether it's a sales page, an ad, a video sales letter. No one was doing this approach where you decompose, because that's how I learned, right? I would study successful marketing and then see why it worked, and then I would apply it to my own stuff. So I said I'm going to build a newsletter where I break down an ad a week, and that's been the concept, and people have been liking it. So in addition to sharing stuff that is happening in my life, like how I'm doing with business and how my thought process around business, I break down an ad or a sales page every week for them.
Yeah. And what does a breakdown look like?
So the way, first of all, if it's a video, we want to get it transcribed, and then essentially I go line by line and show you how what they're trying to convey at every single step of the way, right? And also if an ad is missing something, like a lot of times because I do that, I'm able to tell them like, here's what the ad did right, but here's what the ad actually missed that they could potentially test and improve it. And that's kind of like it's a very, instead of just giving you steps, here's how you do X, Y, and Z, it's more like, let's look at what the market is doing and why it works, what the patterns are there, and now that you know the patterns, maybe you want to apply it to your own ads as well. So that's kind of like the process, just breaking them down line by line, and understanding what belief they're trying to either get you to believe, or what negative belief they're trying to remove from your brain until you have no other option but to click the ad and learn more.
Hmm. And this is typically the Facebook ads that you're breaking down?
Facebook ads, TikTok ads, uh, just any ad that comes my way. A lot of people send me ads all day too nowadays now. So like I have a lot of options to like take. I'm mostly concerned with ones that I can see that they're making sales, so they're not just like people testing stuff randomly. I want to make sure that they're making money, and then they don't have to be direct response ads for the most part. They're e-commerce ads that have elements of direct response, right? So they're not necessarily, you know, direct response could be a scale, right? You could borrow a few things from it, or you could just be 100% on the hardcore side, right? I tend to prefer to be on the hardcore side of direct response, but I understand that there's some brands doing a lot of money, uh, not only borrowing certain aspects of it. So that's kind of like what we look at. Yeah.
And what does that mean, the hardcore side of it?
Okay, so there's on one end you have Agora financial style of copy, right? And then on the other end, you might have like a vanilla e-commerce ad, like Alpha Lion supplements, right? Uh, there's a side of e-commerce or direct response that gets very, very aggressive to the point where they need a legal team to review what they've created because sometimes the claims are so insane that you could quite literally get in legal trouble, right? And that's a product of competition, right? A lot of times people compete in direct response by, if I say I can increase your revenue by 50%, the other guy might say I can increase your revenue by 75% in 7 days. And eventually that's like the natural progression of claims. And either you run into problems with the law, right? Or people stop believing you altogether. And then you have to bring a new idea onto the table, a fresh idea that kind of shift the perspective of the market, right? Think of Alex Hormozy, right? Everyone was like selling high ticket offers, like here's how you can do this in X amount of time without doing this, right? Without suffering from X problems. And people just kept making claims, claims, claims. Then comes Alex Hormozy and says, my name is Alex Hormozy and I have nothing to sell you. And they're like, whoa, what do you mean you have nothing to sell me? But you're one of them and you have nothing to sell me? Oh my God, that's a new idea. And now people, kind of flooded to him, bought his book, and eventually they're probably going to buy something he sells at some point, right? But because they came in on this new concept that this guy, you know, has nothing to sell you, but has a lot of experience in business, that's a new idea in the market that shifted the perspective from the claims that the other gurus were making, right? So that's kind of like what I mean by spectrum. Like there's just a very aggressive side of direct response where they're fighting and making crazy claims, and there's one side there isn't, right? And where you lie in it, it's up to you and up to honestly the tolerance you have for risk. I am not necessarily on the Agora extreme where they're like, making some really really wild claims. Also, I don't want to have to pay a bunch of lawyers. So you just look at my copy, right? So I tend to be somewhere in the middle, right? I'm not. I don't sell crazy shit. Like I'm not. I don't sell like weird financial stuff or anything like that. My stuff is pretty clean so far, you know.
Right, right, right. So
But I do.
beyond, I
Yeah,
guess my question would be beyond over promising, which sounds like you can get in trouble for and might
yeah,
not be the best long-term plan. How do the deep question is sort of how do you elicit that response in people that really wants them to take action, makes them want
yeah,
to buy or to move through the next step of the funnel. Because when you
yep,
have something like a Facebook ad, you're working with not a lot, right? It's probably not more than 280 characters and maybe like an image or video. Um, so I mean, yeah, do you want to talk to how you sort of think about this psychological piece of it?
sure. So the way I think about it is the way that I don't necessarily make an assumption on like based on like what I think. I just observe where everyone else is in the market and where they are in their marketing. So if everyone's making very aggressive claims, like here's how you can get this in X amount of time, and it gets very ridiculous because I have certain knowledge in marketing, particularly from there's this book called Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz. It's kind of an expensive book, but I think it's worth people take a look at it. He talks about a concept called market sophistication, right? And the state of a prospect's awareness. And basically, markets go through cycles, right? Where the claims get bolder at the beginning. When if you have something severely original, let's say whoever he gives an example actually in the book about weight loss. Basically, whoever was the first person to make the claim lose weight made probably like $1 billion. But that's not the case anymore. You lose if you tell someone, I can help you lose weight. Most people are gonna say like, okay, I've heard that one before. How? And that's like how now you might get specific, like, oh, it's keto diet. Oh, I've heard of that. That shit doesn't work. And then based on what people have heard before, you're gonna have to adjust. And there comes a point where they've heard it all, and that's the stage, the last stage of sophistication. And at that point, they're either gonna buy because they actually like you, right, or because you provided a new identity to the whole thing, right? And that's like really how I look at marketing, right? It's like what everyone else is doing. I kind of locate where the market is, and depending on that, I'm gonna either introduce a new way of doing it, a new perspective into doing it, or a completely new idea. And when I say idea, the way I've been trying to like get a very concrete definition, because I talk to my friends and stuff like how do you define a big idea? And I think where I landed myself is it's a new perspective on something obvious that leads to the prospect's desire. So a new perspective, right? So it's completely is a new angle of looking at things, and it has to look at something that is very obvious. That when the person sees it, it's like, oh my god, how come I never thought of that before, right? And at that point, it whatever that new perspective is has to be the key to their desires. I don't know if I got too philosophical here, but that's kind of like how I like to think of an idea. Like if I were to summarize a phrase that helps me think of new ideas, is that one. And then
Hmm.
research powers that, looking at the market and looking at what people are saying online, checking Reddit, checking what people are selling on Amazon, on Etsy, or whatever, right? Checking the reviews, all of that together, and then keeping that sentence that, a new perspective on something obvious that leads to the desire. If I keep that in my mind and I surround myself with information on that market, eventually that leads to a entirely new perspective that they've never seen before. Hopefully.
Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. Quick break from the podcast to tell you about Language Blend, the best new way to learn Spanish. Language Blend was co founded by Jake Nomada, friend of the podcast, decade of experience in Latin America. And Jake and his team, they put everything into this program that they wish they had in terms of how to level up quickly with your Spanish language skills. Because the faster that you can get conversationally fluent in Spanish, the better the experience that you're going to have in Latin America. So go to languageblend.com for more information. And I'm just curious to maybe it's repetitive, but how do you do that without making a claim? Like you can say you're going to get more rich, you're going to get lower taxes. Is it really that sort of claim based, or is it? Do you find a way to sort of get to the second order, like the outcome
Mm-hmm.
the true outcome that leads to? It's like, well, why do you want to pay less taxes? Because you want more freedom or something like that, right? And so
Yep.
you kind of get to that second order effect. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, you want to get to the second order effects for compliance reasons, right? Uh, and sometimes it could be as simple as here's how I've made this money doing this. I'm not saying you can do the same. I'm saying I did it, right? And that's like granular compliance. It could be here's how this research demonstrated that uh, you can reduce the probability of getting blood sugar, right? Or like there's certain language, like you see, I said sugar in your blood instead of diabetes because I would stay from the word diabetes for compliance reasons, right? So
Sure.
for the most part, if you're in the health space and you're writing an offer for the health space, and you're not like someone who's an expert in compliance, go to Upwork and hire someone who writes health blogs and a bunch of other stuff in the health industry, and have them look at your thing. Because I mean, not only are you going to get banned, like that's getting banned from like Facebook is the least that could happen. the worst thing is you don't get banned, you scale, and then all of a sudden you get a letter from the FDA or FTC, right? Because you violated a bunch of rules and they sue you. And I've never been in that situation, but I've heard of people that have been, and it's kind of ugly, right? But for the most part, your claims, if they come from like a second order effect, like you said, not only are they usually more believable, in my opinion, but they're cleaner, right? And that's how
Yeah,
you
it's
know you
less
want to approach
specific.
it.
It's more dreamy.
Yeah, exactly. And you want to also like let some of the other stuff do some legwork, like how you achieve the thing, like your unique mechanism, the story behind you, right? Like, and how you found the solution. Uh, what's usually keeping people from attaining the solution and attaining the results, uh, and then like ultimately like how it works, what you've built that can help them get there, which is the offer. Sometimes you can have a terrible everything, and because like your offer is so good, people still buy, right? Like that happens a lot of times. So that's why a lot of e-commerce brands can have like sometimes like barely any marketing, but their offer is so good that people buy, and a good offer can be a function of many things, right? But that's if your offer is good and you get good at building offers, you can be a little bit, you can skimp a little bit on your copy and your marketing. I'm not saying you should do that, you should be good at both, but
Hmm.
just saying the truth is that for the most part, a good offer trumps all the claims you can make, right? And then there's social proof, which is the ultimate form of validation you can get. If people are getting results, people that are like people that look like the ones who buy, then that's going to help you sell more, and then your claims become less relevant at that point.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. So that's probably enough talking about that the
Yeah,
ads.
man.
Hopefully that
I gave
wasn't
you I gave you a
boring
warning.
people.
I was like, I could talk about this for a while.
No worries, no worries. Yeah, a couple things. I did want to jump back just about Twitter and how you built it. So,
Yeah,
like, what were some of the things that really led to your growth? Did you have like a couple threads that did like super well? Were
yeah,
you replying and engaging with a couple accounts, or what would you attribute it to?
yeah. So apparently, I did what every Twitter expert claims is the right way to do it, but I wasn't conscious of it at the time, right? So what I did is I followed people that I saw that their content was things I was interested in. Particularly, they were either doing similar business as me or interest or business that I found interesting that I would love to do in the future. And I would just follow those people. And then every time I saw an opportunity, I would engage. But I noticed a lot of people, because I'm getting them now. A lot of people engage in my stuff, but sometimes I can tell when it's for the purposes of looking smart, right? And there's a difference between trying to look smart versus like, because most of my shit was like when I used to comment on people, I used to be like, I think you're wrong. It wasn't like agreeing with people. It's like, yeah, I think you're right, but you could do this a little better.
Okay, so a lot of engagement. And what was it the sort of thing that you were doing right that they said, that you were doing unconsciously, just sort of vibing with it?
It was mostly like I would comment on people's stuff, but it wasn't necessarily because I wanted them to retweet my stuff. Because I would comment insight into things that they either weren't aware of, or I just brought up a new perspective into what they did. They would just retweet me, and I was just like, because of that, every time that happened, I would just grow. I would tweet every day whatever I was doing, whether it's 3 5 times, and eventually, as I kept, I guess, commenting on people's stuff, and like, and I was just using the platform. Right? I wasn't like purposely going out of my way to just go comment. I was just like, all right, this is like the people in my feed. I'm gonna interact with them, and they would start following me, and then they started retweeting my stuff more frequently, commenting on my stuff, and that incremented my reach, and then my 2 to 3 3 posts to 5 posts a day uh, became more relevant. But also, I always stay within my realm. So if I talked about business, my account, I almost only use Twitter to talk about business and experiences around it, right? Or things that inspire me, or things that I saw that day that relate to what we do in direct response marketing. And over time, your timeline becomes like a sales letter that kind of sells who you are and what you have to offer. And yeah, just don't fill it up with garbage and you'll be fine, right? Because then eventually people start seeing your stuff and whatever you've posted in the past. Like I've had people go all the way to the bottom from the beginning, and
Really.
that's 18,000 tweets. Yeah, it's insane. But because I see when they like very old stuff, right? And that's really the game. And honestly, you're not gonna grow just tweeting, right? If you want to grow, you got to write threads. You got to write threads, and you got to do those auto DMs. Now, I'm not endorsing them because I have my reservations about them. I think most people do them wrong. You can go viral with an auto DM campaign very easily, but the problem is if you're doing like something just because it's trendy, but it doesn't relate at all to what you have to say and your niche, then you're bringing a bunch of people who just want free shit and they're not necessarily interested in the problem you're solving, which
Yeah.
means that when you try to sell something later on, they're just not going to be interested in that. So your engagement is going to drop and all that kind of stuff. So, if you're going to do an auto DM, build a lead magnet, test it, and then honestly you can run the same one over and over again because one brings you new people and then you can run another one that those people haven't seen. It creates like this cascade. Like if I were to I don't want to run them at the moment because I am busy building something, right? So like but if I want to, I can bring 5,000, 10,000 followers a month just doing kind of like very high quality auto DMs with lead magnets. But at the end of the day, like, you know, followers and likes are just meaningless if you cannot turn them into sales. So you got to correlate to that. Like there comes a point where you build the audience, and then there comes a point where you just dedicate yourself to showing them what you got and selling them stuff.
Yeah, it makes sense. There was actually a situation a couple of weeks ago where I totally forget what account, but they were doing an auto DM thing, and they said that they had an Agora PDF that they were giving away for free,
Oh,
right?
I saw that.
So like,
I got that one actually.
and so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I saw this one, and it's like it's like comment DM, and we'll DM it to you. And so on the list of replies or comments was yourself and Oliver
Yeah.
Canteen, however you say it. Um, and I remember the guy kind of retweeted. He was like, "Damn, this blew up. I guess that's what happens when Wi-Fi Money Guy and Oliver, comment on your post."
Yeah, I've actually met Oliver in person in Florida, and but yeah, we just wanted to see like the Agora the Agora files, and we just commented because we were interested, and apparently that did something to his stuff because it really did blew up, but uh, I guess because my audience and Oliver's audience are interested in direct response, we all know who Agora is. So the fact we just commented on that and retweeted it, just blew it up.
And see, so I commented DM, I got the PDF, and it was like the weirdest PDF ever. It was like a hand it was like a manually scanned version of a book with like someone had written like notes in the side
Yeah,
columns, like manual pen notes on like every page and like underlines.
yeah.
It was like a scan of like a student's textbook. I was like, what the hell is this? I don't
Those
even
were
know.
all campaigns that Agora ran. Now I have information that I can tell you this. Not all those campaigns were bangers. Like those were not all of them were extreme successes. Like for Agora, but all of those campaigns that you saw in sales letters were part of they're part of their copywriting training camp. So those people who get hired by Agora have to go through that process, or they did at some point in time. I don't think they might not do anymore. They might have some different sales letters, but all of those are kind of sales letters they have to study every single day for 30 days. And those breakdowns you saw, I don't know if it's someone that actually who gave it to him, probably was asked to break down sales letters because that's why my newsletter exists because that's if Agora's arguably probably one of the top direct response companies ever, right? They make $1 billion a year, and if they're breaking down ads on a line to line basis and seeing what they're trying to convince you, then that's probably something that most of us should be doing too, right? And that's actually where I got the concept for my newsletter of breaking down ads, right?
Okay, because Agora breaks down ads. So Agora was
Among others,
actually
yeah.
breaking down someone else's book, like it was Agora's notes in
No,
someone else's book.
those are all sales letters that Agora ran. Like those are all uh, I think I saw the End of America there. Those are like there were a lot of like just campaigns that Agora created and run. Okay, so it's all Agora stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you notice, some of them were like, you know, essentially trying to pitch you into a newsletter because they had a recommendation for stock price for picking stocks. I've never written financial copy. I never sold a financial offer. I know it's like tough because it has a lot of. It's just like health. It has a lot of compliance issues. But they make bank doing it. You know, that's what they do.
Mhm. Fair enough. How did you end up meeting Oliver?
Funny. Uh, we have this habit where like we just talk publicly, like, and that and a few people, we just like chat and like literally on the timeline. And Alex Berman said, are we going to dinner? We're gonna do dinner when we get back when I get back to Florida. That was Alex telling Oliver, and he said for sure. And I'm like, am I invited? It was literally public, and he said, yeah, 100%. And then Alex texted me, he's like, oh, we're gonna meet in 2 weeks, and I was like, sure, I'll just fly to Florida, and that's what I did. um, so I flew to Florida to have dinner with them. And then I stayed for a while, and I visited family and whatnot. But uh, it was basically just a random encounter to have dinner in Tampa.
That's pretty sick. Have you managed to meet other Twitter people? You got any good stories?
Yeah, yeah. I've met a couple. One I met at a coffee shop. He's actually a direct response copywriter, and we're just like geeking the fuck out, like kind of like I am now. But imagine like two of me talking to each other. Like the level of autism was like unreal. And we're in this coffee shop, and for some reason there's like a lot of girls, and every girl's like looking at us like, who are they, what the fuck are they talking about, you know? And it took us until the end where we realized that all eyes were on us. I'm like, oh shit, because we were talking about like throwing big ass numbers, talking about controls and headlines and whatnot. It was just it was just interesting because the moment we realized that everyone was like staring at us like, who are these, you know, marketing nerds or whatever the fuck they are.
At the coffee shop. And what, you just recognized dude, or like was it a
You know
planned meeting?
that was an interesting thing because of when Oliver actually picked me up from the airport in Tampa, and I said, Oliver, we have a problem. He's like, what? He's like, how the fuck do you know how I look, man? He's like, oh shit. You know, and it's always interesting meeting anonymous accounts too, because then you're like, oh fuck, we don't really know how we look to each other, so what are we, you know, it's kind of like a description. It's like, I'm wearing, you know, a black hat and whatever, and I'm like, okay, that's you. But it's always fascinating when that happens.
Hmm. Any other Twitter stories of having met up with other people?
Someone told me that that same person actually told me, it's like, you actually look like money Twitter, and I don't know what that meant, but like apparently I look like a money Twitter guy. I don't know. I don't know what
I
that
saw a meme that was like Instagram versus money Twitter or something, and it was like Instagram was like actually a cool guy, and money Twitter was like in the room with the PlayStation.
No, it was more along the lines like, you know, kind of like the I had a fade with the curly hair in the top. You know that meme that goes
Ah,
around.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. So I guess I still have that, but by the way, but it was like probably that along with the you know, I'm into fitness as well, so it's kind of like a the stereotype is real. Like we do eat blueberries all day. You know, we
right.
zing all day.
Bu
So yes,
Buying a
nicotine.
Rolex.
No
Nic-
Rolex. I actually don't know anything about watches. That's like the thing. I don't know anything about watches. I can't. I don't drive, so like I don't know anything about cars either. I mean, I know how to drive now, but like I didn't for a while, and yeah, for me it's it's mostly like the fitness stuff. I'm a fan of like PEDs, like just overall performance enhancing drugs or supplements, right? So you know the stereotype.
Yeah. What else have you learned from money Twitter and Twitter in general, and the
Man,
things that have, changed your habits or help you make money, etc.?
I'd say in general, the biggest thing is like I don't know if I necessarily money Twitter guys are very ahead when it comes to technology. So I've been able to adopt things that take forever for everyone else to use, and then I'm like, oh shit, this guy's using this in an interesting way, like with AI stuff. Let me see how I can use it. Right, that's like one of the things that I've learned a lot from Twitter's like they're just very good at like automation, optimizes systems, right? And honestly, the biggest takeaways from money from Twitter in general have been health related. Uh, I tore my pec a while, like a couple of years ago, and then I kind of just got a little bit like fuck, I lost all my gains, kind of like trying to recover from this. And so basically, when I lost all my gains, I got out of shape, and joining Twitter and seeing all these people emphasizing working out and kind of like doing different things, I was like, you know what, let me actually let me see if I can get my shit together, and it worked. Like I'm getting in probably the best shape of my life, and I'm more open to things now, supplements. I want to get into TRT at some point, so it's like things that I otherwise wouldn't have ever thought of, like steroids or whatever. Now they're like, I understand the psyops and the people discouraging from it, and like now I understand like how I can use those things to my advantage, and not just like use it for health but for business. Like how can you perform better, right? So yeah,
Mhm.
it has been tremendously influential. I'm very grateful to have joined Twitter, and pretty much like most of the guys there. I don't have I think it's a fantastic place. If you're in high school and you find money Twitter as it is, man, you're so lucky.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of your success comes from being a little bit ahead of the curve.
To a certain degree, yeah. It can be about being ahead of the curve sometimes, but also understanding the fundamentals. Like I've said, like I understand what works when it comes to human psychology. I've had great mentors. Some are people that you might know, like that. There is some of the old gurus and whatnot. Other times are friends that I have, like that were just knew the stuff before me, and they introduced me to it, and I'm very grateful for that. But ultimately it's understanding the fundamentals, and then having like the ability to adapt it to what's technologically relevant nowadays. Like how can I use AI and the fundamentals to scale campaigns or build better marketing, right? So it's a combination of both.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I think that's a good answer. You definitely got to have the fundamentals down.
Yeah,
And
100%.
random question: what was the situation where Oliver was like picking you up at the airport? Was there like a conference or event or some reason, or was it just like, hey, get some money Twitter people together or what?
Quite literally, we just went to dinner. We had steaks, and we got cigars. If you've seen that cigar lounge that a lot of the money Twitter guys hang out, like Cold Email Wizard and Andre, like that, I went to that place, and although I didn't meet them at the time because I was only there for a day, uh, it was just like honestly there was no conference, there was nothing. We just met, and we were just there was no agenda. We just met up, and I got unfortunately after meeting them, I got COVID, man, and I just got destroyed. So for the most part in Florida, I was in bed, and the thing is, bro, that I was supposed to meet them and go meet Zuby actually with Oliver, but
Right
man,
on.
I got COVID and I couldn't just go chill with them. But that was like that wasn't planned. That was like we met up and we are like, yo, you guys want to go to Zuby's coming to a little conference thing? Let's show up. And but unfortunately, I got COVID hit me though. That shit was like the first time I got it, and it was just a cold, but it was intense, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
What's the? I have a random question. What's kind of the overlap between copywriting and direct response marketing? Because there's kind of like a lot of the guys on Twitter, they claim to be experts in copywriting, or that's the way they present themselves, I should say, is they
Yeah.
present themselves as, authorities on copywriting. I don't see as many people present themselves as authority on direct response marketing, even though that actually sounds higher value.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think what ends up happening. To be a direct response marketer, you don't have to be the greatest copywriter, but you understand you need copy. Copy is essential for direct response marketing. I would say direct response marketing is how you approach the entire campaign, right? And the offer building components of it. And then copywriting is how you write the words that convince someone and persuade them. Copywriters also can build offers in many instances as well. But it's kind of like if you say copywriting, I think uh, people who will understand most they're aiming for direct response people usually, right? Like when they say like I'm a copywriter, it's usually a direct response copywriter. But I don't know, yeah, it's an interesting why they don't necessarily use direct response marketing as their thing. I think it's just more of a something. Well, here's the thing: you could be a direct response marketer who runs ads, like he is good at as a media buyer, but you don't write the copy, right? So I guess as a term, direct response is more broad.
Hmm. Yeah, I think they're both a bit broad in different ways. I had have you heard of Dakota Robertson?
Oh yeah, yeah, I know Dakota. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a dinner with him last week, and he was talking about how like really a lot of his clients, or maybe in the early days, maybe now, um, some of them didn't even have offers. They just wanted to like build a following on Twitter just for like the vanity of it because they were rich guys or stuff like that. So
Mm.
I feel like there are a lot of situations where copywriters are doing things that aren't part of the sales funnel necessarily, where direct response is much more, I
I,
guess,
I,
like funnel
yeah.
or
At that
conversion
point, I
oriented.
wouldn't call them copywriters. I would call them content writers, and that would be the difference
Yeah,
between content and copy.
that's a good point. I like that actually. That helps clarify things.
Yeah, I would say content is more about education, and education is it's honestly like it's a very expensive thing. Like, is you're trying to educate people about a certain thing, and because you don't have an outcome or selling something, it's gonna be effort and money thrown into something that could potentially yield a benefit. I think content marketing is great, but I think content marketing from the perspective of like if you do content marketing and you use direct response, then you're probably a copywriter who's trying to get them to take action in some form of way, usually getting them to the list where you will eventually sell them something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Random quick actionable question. What's the best landing page software to use? Is it ClickFunnels? Is it Lead Pages? Something else? How do people typically set it up these days?
I would say it depends what you're selling. I'll tell you what I use, right? So if I'm selling info products, I use Samscart. And if I'm selling physical products, I use Shopify and I use a plugin called Zipify that actually builds the funnel for you, like the landing page, and you can do the upsells. So, but that's me, right? There's tons of options, and honestly, use whatever you can use to build a funnel. Uh, just keep in mind this: it must load fast, and some softwares out there are known for being very slow. And if you are have a very slow loading site because of the system you're using, then you might be losing sales. That's just be conscious of that.
Okay. What was the one you said for digital products? Sam's Card, something like that?
Yeah, Samcart is a it's very popular for digital products because you can host courses and stuff there as well. And then it does the funnel landing page, the upsells, and everything else. It's very you can do it for physical too, but it's mostly meant for and most people use it for info products.
Sam Card. Okay, yeah, this is the first time I'm seeing this one.
Yeah, for info products, it's fantastic. I never heard of Gumroad until Twitter. I still to this day I'm like, why would I use that? It's not optimized for anything. It's actually terrible.
Yeah, Gumroad's kind of weird. Yeah, this is cool because this seems more like white label.
Yeah, 100%. I like it. Those are two that I use. But obviously, it's always going to depend on the situation. Sometimes I might need a different tool based on what I'm selling.
Okay. And do you mess with WordPress sites as well? Like, are you integrating some of these things into WordPress?
I used to use WordPress for a supplement offer I had, mainly because I couldn't run it on Shopify. Uh, uh, because I needed to use a payment processor that wasn't Stripe or any of that. It's called NMI, and Shopify at the time had removed support for NMI. and I had to use like WooCommerce and like I think we use a Mentor WooCommerce, and I think the software's called Funnel Kit. Is like a it's like a WordPress based funnel builder that uses WooCommerce.
Hmm. Random question about the books. So we were talking earlier about how you help influencers sell books and actually printing out physical books. Do you give them kind of the option of like do you give the client um, the buyer the option of an ebook or a physical book, or do you, or when you build out products like that, is it all about the physical book and kind of
Mhm.
getting something in their hands, or are you slinging ebooks too?
So for and this is like if we were to sell books with we've sold, right, but there's other products to influence with influencers. The thing is, for the most part, I like to do physical books, and not just me. There are I spoke once to a guy who's very well known in the keto space, selling info products, particularly books. And he said that he tested it with a lot of cash, and basically he said ebooks kind of things have reverted where now people wanted to get a physical book again. Whereas ebooks were the hot thing that everyone wanted an ebook over a physical book. Then he saw the shift where a physical book being delivered didn't cost much and it boosted conversion. So people do what they want to do with that information. Uh, but this was like someone who sells a lot of freaking books in the keto space, kind of like the weight loss space, and that's kind of like why I do physical. Also, I think it's a better experience overall. Like people, if you're building something that you can put on a table, right? It's just a better thing for you in general, right? But it does,
Yeah, it's
you
fun.
can
You can
do
gift
ebooks,
it.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's up to you,
Okay.
but just know that for certain things, the physical books, based on that information I have from someone, uh, it did boost conversions. And I noticed a lot of people. If you notice, a lot of people when they have those book funnels, like here's my book, right? Download it to do some high ticket stuff in the back end. A lot of those guys send you a physical book. You pay shipping and handling usually. So think about that. Like if they're doing something, if they're doing a physical book, there's a reason for it.
Hmm. Okay, cool. Another random question. I saw that you got the TikTok and the YouTube going for Wi-Fi Money Guy. TikTok
Yes.
looked a little early, but I saw on the YouTube there was no content on the YouTube, but you had like 250 subscribers, which was kind of cool. What's going on with that? You got any plans
Man,
to start
you're like
branching out
you're
into that?
sharp, dude. Like that's some sharp shit right there. Because the reason for that is because I host ads that I basically take an ad, host it on my YouTube, and then send it. That's how I break down ads. So on my newsletter, I send them a video of the ads, and people from my newsletter, I just realized that they've been signing up and subscribing to my channel. So that's why they're all
Oh,
people actually that
you have
know
private videos.
I have private videos. Yeah, and that's
Okay,
how
okay.
it's been growing like that. So that's a very sharp, very sharp of you. I've been growing on Instagram a little bit. I haven't posted lately because I've been focusing on other stuff, and additionally, I am building a product for Twitter, that Discord community that I'm going to launch most likely next week. Uh, and I've been busy and I haven't been posting a lot on Instagram, but I kind of just want to make sure that Twitter's my main audience. So for now, I'm focusing on Twitter. I don't know what's to come, but eventually I will start posting somewhere else. Depends how far I take this, right? Like my goal with Wi-Fi Money Guy is to build software, like SaaS. So like I'm putting that out there. That's like really my ultimate goal. So uh, content can help. Producing content is always it's good to get traffic, but at the end of the day, like
Hmm.
that's going to depend where I take the brand moving forward. Yeah.
Hmm. Do you still pick up software work, like for yourself as a coder or for your agency at all, or are you like at this
No,
point like fully on the e-commerce stuff?
no, I'm fully on the e-commerce side. Yeah, it's 100% there now. and it was like, again, it was gradual. Like, I don't want people thinking like, oh, he just burned the boats of his agency and just went into e-commerce. I'm like, nah, 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 dude. Like, it was a gradual thing. It was a calculated move. I think people, you're gonna need some money to run e-commerce. Maybe if you do the influencer thing where like you partner with an influencer, maybe you don't need that much money to do that. But you shouldn't, you shouldn't like have to like depend on it at first. Like, you have to have some sort of income that will maintain you, and keep that savings up too, and then start experimenting and building a proper business on the side, right? Don't just go quit everything and just do that. Or maybe move to Latin America, right? Maybe that might work, right? That could be. I've spoken to a few friends. They say like, yeah, like, sure, you can keep a job or whatever, but if you have a pretty large sum of savings, you can probably just get a remote job and move to like Colombia or Thailand or something like that, and reduce your costs to very low levels, right? And then invest more in your business. That's something that I didn't do, but I'm pretty sure people can do.
It's true. It's true. It's a lot easier to burn the boats if you have a low cost of living.
Yeah, if you're paying like less than $1,000 a month in rent, and you're like, in Latin America, or like you're in a freaking Thailand, like, yeah, you can probably take more risk and still live a pretty good life.
Very cool. This episode, by the way, is probably going to come out a month from now,
Okay.
more or less. So hopefully your Discord will be up and stuff
Oh,
will be launched.
100%. Yeah, yeah.
All right, you gotta throw me
You,
a promo code, man, for
I was
the
gonna say, I
audience.
could give you an affiliate link, because I'm very I'm not like most people. I'm very I'm very happy to share the love, the money. It's like,
All right. The
that's part of the direct response stuff. I like, if you have traffic, I'll happily give you an affiliate link.
all right. The coupon code is at My Latin Life. May or may not work. Try it on the
Yeah, try
checkout
it, try
page.
it, try it. There's gonna be a link attached to this. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, we are going to link everything up in the show notes. So, shortly before it goes live, we'll get everything in there. So, everybody, it's all up to date. You can find Wi-Fi Money Guy on all the platforms. Mr. Wi-Fi Money Guy, Senor Dinero en línea. um, how do we want to wrap up the episode? Do you want to tell people where they can learn more about you?
Yeah, I mean, if they want to kind of just follow through with what I'm doing, what I'm launching, documenting some of the stuff I'm already doing, Twitter is right now the main source of information. Right, that's that, and join my newsletter, because I do share on a more deep, in depth stuff. Because people, if you give me your email, I owe it to you to just give you more stuff. So that's like kind of how it works, right? A follow is great, but a follow plus an email, I'm going to deliver more, right?
Cool, cool. Any last words?
I guess like you know, it is possible to make money online, right? Like, there's tons of people doing it on Twitter. There's tons of people doing it all over social media, and sometimes we will market just showing the best of the best, the kind of like the end result of things, right? But just know that there is uh, there is a roadmap to follow. There is some obstacles to overcome, and honestly, this game wouldn't be fun. It's like a video game, right? If there were no villains and obstacles in your way, then it would be boring, and kind of like the gains you get at the end would be worthless. So, just take it, have a clear mindset when you go to do this, right? Because it's going to be very close to a video game, right? You're going to sometimes win, sometimes miss, but eventually you get really good at it, and then you start stacking wins. Competition gets more fierce, but the whole thing gets more fun because you make more money and you get to build more creative things. And that's it.
Hmm. Yeah, I kind of realized that I did want to ask you about the pass and the best way to start working online for the newbies. I guess we got in the weeds about direct response stuff a little too much. So I guess I'll take the time. Well, whatever. Have you on an extra minute here? What do you think is kind of the best path for newbies to start making money online? Maybe they have a normal office job. right now? Should they get a remote job
Mhm.
and work for a company online? Should they go straight into entrepreneurship and start selling stuff? How do you recommend people if they were to get started and they wanted to get that
Yeah.
online income going?
So first, you gotta, regardless of what you're gonna do online, whether it's to sell SaaS, whether it's to sell a service, uh, whether it's to sell e-commerce, you're gonna have to become a good copywriter. So if you have a job, the next step is to learn direct response copywriting, right? And that's actually one of the things I do in the Discord. I basically, the majority of the time I'm teaching people how to become a better, how to become a copywriter, and then how to actually become a good copywriter. And if you can write copy, the next step would probably be for you to become a freelance copywriter, like on the side, and maybe take some clients just to so that your copy starts getting in front of audiences and see how it converts, right? And basically you're using other people's dollars to test your own copy and gaining experience while making the money hopefully too, right? And at the same time, while you're doing like freelance copywriting here and there, you start launching your own offers. And maybe it is an affiliate, maybe you start promoting an affiliate offer for someone else, right? Or perhaps you start building your own things. Like it could be, maybe you start a little cologne brand or a fragrance brand or something that you can make at home, a candle, right? And then you start practicing angles and how to sell it, right? So you don't have to start super crazy, but the point is, at the core of it is going to be you learning copywriting and direct response marketing. That's where you need to start. There's no like skipping that. If you skip that, you're going to be in a lot of pain, because then you're just not going to know how to sell anything, and you're going to see a lot of projects fail because of that.
Okay. And how do we learn copywriting? You got a couple quick book recommendations or gurus to follow?
Sure. So when it comes to books, I like to stick to the. I mean, I read it almost. I read a lot of it, and from the newer stuff and the old stuff. I think if I were to start again, always start with "Getting Everything You Can Out of All You've Got" by Jay Abraham, because it gets you in the thinking process of direct response, but not necessarily with e-commerce. It actually deals with services, so it's very fascinating how he does it. Then I would read The Boredom Letters by Gary Halbert. That's a classic, right? After that, I would actually, let me see, um, the Copywriting Handbook by Joe Sugarman. That's a good one. I think it's very actionable, and he sells products. And I guess uh, to just learn the online stuff, I think the best book in the game to just get a quick scope into funnels and whatnot is .com Secrets by Russell Brunson. Like, yes, it's a newer book and whatever, but if you're a beginner and you've gone over that list that I just gave you, then you're gonna realize that all of those guys were OGs. They kind of ran like direct mail campaigns, and you're like, how do I apply it to the online stuff? And that's when Russell Brunson in .com Secrets does a pretty good job of like bridging the old stuff to the new stuff, and that should give you a enough like information, I think, to understand what you're doing, right, and getting started when it comes to books. And then when you start gaining some knowledge through those initial books, you're gonna buy Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz. Now, if you don't know anything about marketing, that book makes zero sense. But once you go through these first couple of books and you've actually go and gain some experience, you read Breakthrough Advertising, and it's like you have like tunnel vision now. You're like, holy crap! Now everything makes sense. And but that comes later, and it's also a $200 book. So it's not a cheap book. It's like a book from the 1960s that I think it used to cost like $900 back in the day. So that tells you, like, just based on the price, how valuable it is.
Sick. So we got a couple book recommendations that'll definitely get people started. Mr. Wi-Fi Money Guy, thanks for coming on, telling us a little bit about your story, about how you got into the Wi-Fi monies and everything, and looking forward to supporting each other on Twitter going into the future.
Yeah, 100%, man. Thanks for having me, dude.
Absolutely. This has been another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Again, with at Wi-Fi Money Guy on Twitter. You can find them. All the links in the description as well. Thanks for listening.